Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm taking a break again from painting my Terminators. I pretty much got everything base coated though, so I can go on to the detail work, which is good. But this is still definitely related, as I'm starting to put the models that I finished in a foam tray. And what you see here is a foam tray. I used the Army Transport from Sable, I believe it's the company or whatever, the battalion, the motor pool, etc., etc. I utilize those, not because they're the best or or anything like that. I just happen to like them, and that's why I use them. Army Transport or whatever I think is the name. It's another company, and there's other companies out there. But basically, whatever you're utilizing, it's almost going to be the same thing when you're utilizing custom fit foam, and that is the foam you see here, where you pick out the foam blocks to make room for your miniatures, whatever it may be. They all kind of work the same way. They'll all be kind of perforated in a way, and I'll show you here. So you can just pluck foam pieces out, and you're able to fit it customly. When I started doing this, I try to make it really fit snugly like a glove, like specific. If some model has a specific pose, I'll pick out the pieces so he would fit just in there. And that's both good and bad. I mean, it makes them extra secured, don't get me wrong, and for some really sensitive or delicate models, that will work great. But if you're going to have, let's say, a squad of the same type of model, or a lot of models to put away for your army, especially for like the hordes and whatnot, that may not be conducive to getting your best bang for your buck. Sometimes you may need to do what I call blocking it, getting the appropriate size block for them to fit into. Now again, this is kind of, you have to weigh out, will this be cost effective if you have like 200 models, let's say. So first things first, you got to figure out what models you're going to put into these foam trays, which is probably your entire army. With that figured out, you got to figure out how you're going to put the models on the in the tray. And with that, you see the Terminators here, they're standing up. So they're standing up like this in the tray. You could also lay models on their back or on their side, or however you want to do it. You have to determine how you're going to transport, not your entire army, but let's say Terminators. How are you going to transport your Terminators? Or if you got Tactical Marines, how are you going to transport them? Or your Orc boards or whatever. To put my power armor, for the most part, I lay them down, especially for the bolter guys. Terminators, sergeants, special heavy weapons, I stand up. So that's why I do it like that. However, if you notice, if you lay it down, it's going to take more space up, like vertically, or more rows, I guess. But he can go into a slimmer case, or a slimmer foam tray. If you stand him up, he takes up less space per model, I guess, but he needs a taller tray. So once you do that, once you figure out how you're going to store them, you got to find the appropriate size trays, both to fit your case if you're buying the trays separately, and both to fit the model, how you're going to support it or transport it. Since I'm standing them up, I got to find pretty tall cases, or trays, sorry. I already know he's not going to fit in this tray, this guy. His back banner is pretty tall. The Cyclone missile launcher does, however. I think that's a 2-inch tray. I don't know offhand. I didn't measure it. So what you got to do is pick a tray that you're pretty comfortable is going to fit the majority of your models. If you happen to have your models on hand, even better. You could take a tray and hold your model up to it and see if it fits. And I'll show you kind of an example of that. We got this tray. It's a taller tray. What you do is you take your model and you meet where the bottom foam part is. That's what he's going to rest on. So you put it pretty much where he's resting on it. And I already did the measurement here. He's not going to fit this tray perfectly. He sticks up there, as you can see, a little bit. Now, is that little bit really going to matter? It depends. I do have one tray that has pretty much everything, a couple of things sticking up just a little bit. And I know with the Sable Transport, I don't know if Battle Foam has it. because I don't have any other cases. But the Sable has like this little flexible foamy thing that's really gentle on the models. You put it over it before you close your case. Helps keep them more secure on the top. If I put the tray I showed you I measured with, if I put that guy on the very top and put that over it, it could be okay. However, because the back banner was kind of tricky to put on the Terminator and kind of a fragile piece, I'm just going to put him in a bigger tray. Or I can put him in this tray that you see here and lay him on his side if I wanted to do that. Either way, once you figure out the tray, you buy the tray obviously, and then you can start picking at it. And what I mean by picking at it is starting to take the individual squares out to make room for the models. Now, I like to start from the very edge, so, ow. And I like to start in the corner, so, let's zoom out a little bit. This would be the first one I would take out to start anything, however big it would be. I like to work my way around the, on one edge, and then moving my way in like you see here, like I did here. I just like doing that better. I just feel it helps line them up easier, and it helps potentially fit more in if you just want randomly up and down or whatnot. As you can see, each one has a row of foam dividing each part, I guess. That is probably the trickiest part of all this, in case you've never done this before. Because, as it's perforated to an extent, you can pick them out, as you can see in the grid. However, each one is slightly attached to each other, as you can see there. So, if you are too quick and violent in pulling it out, you could pull out your the borders. So what I suggest doing is, here, let me utilize this again. If I want to keep this one here, instead of taking out this foam, I would take out this foam first, and then pull this one out gently to separate it and pull it out. That's how I do it personally. If you have a thin razor or a thin edge or a blade that can just slide down there, that can help too. You can like pre-cut it before you pull it out. Whatever works for you. And then you just fit them in there. I happen to be able to get 5 Terminators, you can see, per row, I guess. However, in this case, I can only fit 2 rows of Terminators, as they're 4x4, and with the space, and I will only have 3x4 over here. So I might be able to fit this guy laying down. It didn't focus, but you get the point. I can probably fit the model on its side some way in there if I really wanted to save space. Chances are I probably won't be able to, but it's worth a shot, potentially, if there's nothing else to put in there. So that's pretty much it for how I utilize the foam trays. They're also good for storing objectives, markers, and stuff like that. Again, like Battle Foam offers custom foam trays made to fit specific models. That's great. Some people really do fit their models into the foam as best they can by pulling it out to kind of fit their exact silhouette. That's cool. Takes a little bit more time. It makes the foam less utilitarian. It can only fit that specific model in that specific spot. And if that's all you plan to use it for, that's great. Don't hesitate. Do that, of course. But you have to keep that in mind. I personally like to just make them blocky like you see here. It just lets me throw any of these Terminators in any of those squares, instead of having one square looking slightly different than the other, because the Terminator's pose is slightly different. Like the gun arm is more forward, so I just pull out the extra square for that, and I don't pull out the square for the thing next to it or anything like that. I don't do that because I want to be able to just throw any old model in any old spot without having to worry about it. But anyway, that's pretty much it for what I do in terms of foam. I thought I'd share it with you in case anybody has yet to put their figures away. It's also a good way to store them safely instead of having them around your workspace in a haphazard manner. Especially if you're going to be using them as an army, you can definitely just start putting them in their transport trays and keep them safe that way. If you're worried about forgetting where they are, or if you have a stack of trays and you don't know which ones you use because you stack them up on top of each other, you can always use a sticky note or a piece of masking tape on the side of it, writing what's in there. Also, whatever actual transport case you're using, like I use motor pools or battalions or divisions or whatever. I definitely have the motor pool. I forget the other ones. Fit the foam in there. So know how high you can go with the foam until you get to the top. Depending on the different foam you're using, you may not be able to fit as much foam in your case. So just know that going in, especially if you already have a case, or if you're looking to buy a case, you want to be able to stack certain foam X high, X trays high, or whatever. Again, that seems pretty easy to figure out, but it can be overlooked in the grand scheme of things, so just keep that in mind. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So until next time, take it easy.